welcome to the campaign tips to keep moving forward. Hi everyone, my name is Natasha and I'm the APAC Education Lead based in the Singapore office. I'm spending heaps of quality time with my family, as you can see. In between my webinars, I'm either being distracted by my husband, or actually more like I'm distracting him, or doing dinner prep, or even playing with my cat Pusheen. Mostly playing with my cat Pusheen. These days, we do a lot of shuttle runs in the hallway with just a simple shoelace. And I just want to put it out there, in case that she does make an unexpected appearance, I do apologize. Before we get started, just several housekeeping rules and some tips. If you have any questions as we go through the presentation, please write them in the Q&A section at any time. And at the end of it, we'll also have a 20 minutes for Q&A in case you have something to follow up on or you want to ask a new question. And lastly, if you experience any technical difficulties, please make sure that Flash is enabled and you can try refreshing your screen or even switching browsers. And lastly, I'm guilty of this too sometimes. Please remember to turn off VPN connections so that it can also help to improve the streaming capabilities. Alrighty, let's go. So this is today's agenda, everything from creative, messaging best practice, and then also on campaign hacks to save time and reporting and analytics right before we jump into Q&A. I'm going to open up with the very first section, which is creative and messaging best practices. Even though today we're really going to focus on our core best practices, we know that you have very unique challenges that you're facing right now. And one of the key challenges is that you or the clients that you represent are still looking to grow business in a difficult time. And the best way to connect with your customers is really by listening to their needs, adjusting your businesses, your brand, and your content accordingly. So today I will share some very helpful LinkedIn Insights tools that can help you understand the conversations your audiences are having in real time, and some tips to connect directly with them on LinkedIn or on other channels. So LinkedIn Pages has gone through a major transformation over the last year, and LinkedIn Pages can help you establish your brand as a thought leader with new features designed for fostering conversation and community. One thing to note though, that in order to leverage some of our latest and greatest LinkedIn Pages features, you will need to be a company page admin. So if you want to leverage some of the newest features, do reach out to your current administrator so that they can add you. But if you don't know who that is, you can always reach to your LinkedIn team to help them assist you. And for all the agency partners out there, I know you're tuning in. Clients may be leaning on you to advise them on how best to engage with customers and employees right now. So you can always help them advise on how to leverage these tools and insights, and you can even use this nuggets of information for your own personal agency page. Some of my favorite new features are employee and company notifications. You can get alerts when your company employees are mentioned, and you get to prompt employees to reshare key content from an organization's page. And you're also getting in a lot of built-in content suggestions for your page in real time, based on what's trending with the LinkedIn platform. So if you're like me, you might not be Singaporean, but if you like free stuff like me, this is a really cool insights tool. So basically, this is like your, I would say, a free listening tool that is available to you from LinkedIn. Now, this is how you can also, where the point that I alluded to earlier, that you can get to share and engage the content from employees and from customers. And how you can share your content on LinkedIn is that a huge majority of 92% of B2B marketers use LinkedIn to distribute content. And you can easily share and create new posts as an admin, either from your page admin center or directly from your own page. And just some best practices to keep in mind is that you should be cultivating your brand's LinkedIn presence like you would your own. So take a very people-first approach to build a community on LinkedIn. You could also share very timely, I would say, content in your audience and stay active in the conversations that develop on your posts. But I would also recommend that you really respond to questions quickly in a very personalized touch where possible. And to do this at scale, think about creating a list of pre-approved and very on-brand replies to very common questions or topics. And lastly, do share your best mentions from supportive customers, employees, or executives, because there's nothing quite like you saying for yourself what your brand stands for, but what is really more powerful is very genuine voices from supportive customers, from employees, and even the people behind the brand. Now, I want to go a little deeper into the content suggestion feature and why I really love this free social listening tool, because it is awesome. It is a fantastic insights tool right at your fingertips to find the content or topics that matter to the people you most want to reach. The new content suggestions feature will help you to see which content and topics your audiences are engaging with across LinkedIn, and you get to refine these insights by job function, industry, and seniority, so that you can develop very, very nuanced content strategy for all the people who matter. Content insights also give you the opportunity to share what's already available, trending articles, or you could even take inspiration and create your own content to align with your target audience's interests, or maybe a bit of both. Now, what we see here is that since January, engagement on coronavirus-related topics continue to increase across regions and industries. And what we do see more of is around the three main themes of culture and community. How are brands, managing their employees through this change? What's their company culture like? Do they have happy hour Fridays? Do they promote learning? Or do they request for mindfulness, mindfulness hour or mindfulness day to be taken? So these are the different ways of how brands communicate on how they virtually collaborate, what are the different productivity tools out there or productive ways of working, and how do they encourage learning new skills like how to work a video conference, being one of them. Secondly is about health and well-being. It's very important to talk about employee health, personal health. It's very easy to get stuck at your desk, where you're working. I would say there's no differentiation or separation from work and from personal life. So health and well-being is an even increasingly important topic because you want to make sure that you're productive at home, but you're very healthy, both physically and mentally as well. And lastly is on business and productivity. Gig economies are huge. What's your side hustle? That could be really important during this time. I thought I saw a really funny tweet which mentioned what's the best strategy for digital transformation, or who's the best influencer for digital transformation, and they put A, a consultant, and B, a CEO, and the third one is coronavirus. So coronavirus in a way has made it almost essential for businesses to pivot being online, also pivoting to remote working. So things like connectivity and bandwidth, suddenly video conferencing tools are facing a lot of buffering issues. This is the supply chain, how do we make sure that, we're getting the resources that we need. And lastly, travel plans and contingencies. What is going to happen to all the physical events that you have? So yes, these are some of the trending topics that we start to see the past few weeks and months. This is how you get to follow topics and trends to join the community conversations. Use community hashtags because these allow marketers, allows business owners to track up to 3 hashtags and see how many members are following the hashtags in real time. You can also leverage trending hashtags so that you can join topical conversations across the platform. So maybe right now what's trending, as I mentioned, is maybe pro-health or well-being. So if you're interested to, develop content around those, make sure you use those community hashtags. And some best practices to keep in mind is that members will often read the content with hashtags of their interest. So make sure you include a hashtag in your post to see a 3% higher click-through rate. And honestly, LinkedIn is not Instagram. You don't put things like hashtag OOTD, hashtag my friends are cooler than yours, hashtag are we over coronavirus yet? The thing about LinkedIn is the fewer is better rather than dozens per post. So we highly recommend just using 2 to 3 to represent your brand and what's top of mind. And lastly, searches on LinkedIn for hashtag WFH and hashtag remote work have increased so much more significantly over the last several weeks. And yes, when creating content, practice the fundamentals. Never lose sight of your customers' and employees' needs. Do make sure you leverage our content suggestion tools, check out the trending hashtags, really take a listen and find out how you can add that unique voice, that kind of helps in the conversation rather than adding noise. At the same time, also, I would say pay attention to the sentiment of how people feel, because you also don't want to be tone deaf as a brand. Maybe for example, chase your dream job, because right now we do understand that it's a little challenging. So maybe we could change the topic to be around how do you improve productivity at work, or how do you get Like, for example, explore the gig economies as an example. Number 2, demonstrate trustworthiness. It's very important for you to show that you're reliable, important to show that you post fact-checked content. And these are some of the ways that people really rely on brands to help them make pretty good decisions as well, by you empowering them with trustworthy content. Third is to bring your brand values to life. So if let's say you're about being bold, about making an impact, show how you do it with your employees. Maybe show how you can make an impact. Really showcase on how you can maybe provide areas through corporate social responsibility, or how you can be innovative during this time. And having said that, like 4, 5, and 6 is really on that soft skills. Be supportive. If employees have to work from home, show us rather than tell us, how you're being supportive. Be human. Understand what your customers' needs are. Understand what their concerns are. And find out if you as a brand can answer those or reassure those. The only way you can be supportive and be human is to really listen in number 6. And 7, I alluded to this earlier, is to really be mindful of tone, timing, and delivery. So maybe you might think like, okay, if we have the content suggestions tool, it might be good to find out what's trending and maybe create new content, or maybe reshare the article and share your perspective. But also look back at like the previous campaigns that you're previously running. Maybe some content themes may not be as relevant anymore, but some of them may still be, and in fact even be more so. You don't have to explicitly talk about COVID. If the message still is evergreen, it's timeless even in this time, as long as it's mindful of tone, timing, and delivery, you can always restart that campaign. And lastly, you should look forward, while keeping your finger on the pulse. Like, we will get out of this one day, hopefully, but the only way to do that is to make sure that you're also kept on top of things, kept on top and up to date with the news. Sponsored content best practices. This is really, I would say, it's a lot to read here. It's a lot to take in. And these are just some of the snapshots of how we saw the best of some of the ads that we've seen in Asia Pacific. And why we like some of these ads is because of the use of hashtags. They use a mix of community hashtags, but they also use a mix of their personal hashtags. And they also have like links of call to actions, or they use a very interactive, creative and visual so that people click through to find out more. But what we see here is maybe I would suggest looking into making a bold statement or asking a question to really spark that conversation, to get your audiences to react. And sometimes, if you ask them like a question, they might be interested, their curiosity will be piqued to find out what is it about. And again, like some of the examples I've shown you here, make sure you showcase the insights front and center, or you show a very, fitting image, that is thumb-stopping as well. And I think what is clear here as well is to use rich colors rather than white backgrounds. And that's because, as you can see, our LinkedIn ads are very clean, they're white-based. So if you put like an image that's a color, your ads will actually pop up. So that's one of the ways as well. Have very clear call to actions. You could put it as a link, you could put it as a button, but just to make sure that people understand what you want them to do. And you can test very different call to actions. And what we found is that when you use call to actions like register, it actually outperforms the call to action join, because register connotes that you do have to fill up a specific action or a form before you can get access to a specific event. Whereas join sounds a bit more like, hey, join me for virtual board games on Zoom conference at some point. So it sounds very like they don't really have to do anything, but they can easily join. So make sure you use the right call to actions, or you experiment to see which one works for you. And I think this is really cool. The thing about LinkedIn is you can specifically target specific groups of people. So make sure you address your audience and explain why your piece of content will help your target audience become more productive and more successful. So if let's say you're targeting marketing managers, make sure you put it in your copy. Say, hey marketing managers, I've got a really cool infographic that could help you save time. So that would catch their attention, and I highly encourage you to do so. And lastly, make sure that you develop a very consistent brand template, that is consistent, look and feel, that whenever they see a particular ad, they can recognize that, this ad came from Google, or this ad came from Unilever, or this ad came from A lot of professional services actually do this really well, like Ernst & Young. And yes, invest in great images. This is a cool tip because images are processed 60,000 faster than words. So make sure that the images that you post are not just relevant to the audience or matching the headline, or it's just otherwise it might be too boring. So I wanted to showcase a Japanese example because this is a very famous Japanese painting. So obviously if you run this in a market like Japan, it would definitely resonate. And this example by Corn Ferry is quite cool as well, given that they've shown a cut of their report. So instead of letting you figure out what this report is, they tease you so that you think like, oh, that's a really cool insight. I wonder what else they have in store for me. The second tip is to have a very clear call to action. So make sure that you don't bury it in too much text. As I mentioned earlier, make sure that it's easy for them and that it's not like a treasure hunt. You can see here that it's very simple that you want them to download the guide, and as well as you can also share a bit of a sneak preview of what they can see. If let's say they were to click on that particular link for Workday. My next tip, A/B testing. This can really help you lead to huge gains in performance, and your content may be good already. I'm not denying that, but play around with it. Sometimes really simple variants will appeal that little bit more to your audience. So what you can do is you can bring up an info from the text of the body into the headline, or you can make it more relevant to the audience. All these little changes that you can see in Tableau software, you can see in A and B, they have very different copies. And just from that, you're actually able to increase the click-through rate by 120%, just from playing around with different variations, different versions, to see what your audience is like. So if you are strapped for budget, you only have that one sad visual, play around with the copy. There's so many ways you can A/B test, and it doesn't have to be just about visuals. So yes, this actually gave a higher performance, version 8. And you would never know that if you never tried. So here's another one. This time, the only difference is imagery. Which one do you think yielded better results? Note that in both examples, not only did testing produce improvements in the on-platform matrix, like click-through rate, but it actually improved conversions on the landing page after the click, even though both versions drove audiences to the same destination. So just a simple visual test, and you're able to see tremendously crazy numbers in terms of higher click-throughs or higher conversion rates. All right. Virtually chat with clients using conversion ads. Now, this is amazing because conversation ads on LinkedIn is built on it's built on logic rather than, or a decision tree rather than AI. So it's completely brand safe. You do get to decide which are the different touch points or exit points that you want them to go, and you can build a conversation ads that way. So to get started, you can always take advantage of conversation ad templates in Campaign Manager. We have available templates by objective, for example, to drive trials and demos. We get to offer professional services. You even get to promote your podcast. So you can always edit any of these templates to make them your own. And you can also use multiple messages and buttons. It's literally like having a conversation, but you get to provide a more engaging experience. You get to give your prospects the information they need in bits, not in bulk. It's not like, here's all the information you have. It's really based on where they're at. So you can set up to 2 or 3 messages with at least 2 call to actions that members can interact with. And, think of this again, like this is literally a conversation ad. So keep it conversational. Keep your tone warm, keep your tone helpful, the way you speak on the phone. And another helpful tip is don't include not interested call to actions, because uninterested recipients they can already simply close the ad. So instead, focus on call to actions that can really help you achieve your business objectives. And lastly, use rich media. So if you're seeing really low engagement, consider adding rich media like photos to better explain what you're trying to talk about. Now we'll jump to the next section where we'll be talking through some campaign hacks to save your time. With LinkedIn website demographics, it helps you to understand the different types of professional visiting your website to better tailor your content. What you can do is that you can measure the visitor traffic and page engagement on every page of your website. This lets you understand the types of audiences that are converting so that you can plan the content, you can define your campaign targeting, and you can review the landing page design so that you can improve your conversion rates and lead quality. For example, let's say you notice that a particular target audience of prospects is spending time on one of your product pages, but isn't taking the final action of downloading a case study. What you can do is that you can improve the content on your website to drive more conversions on that particular case study. Or you could actually nurture your recent website visitors on that particular page with a retargeting campaign. Perhaps that same case study but broken up into snackable, sizable content so that they understand what your case study is, they get excited and enticed to find out more, and that's how you can probably get more people to take the final step in downloading your content. And these are the different ways you can use website demographics. Firstly, you can test whether LinkedIn can drive more higher quality leads. Secondly, you can tailor content and better understand who you should be targeting. And this is probably the most used case on how you use website demographics. This helps you to understand where the gaps are between your current audience site traffic and the target audience that you're trying to reach. A lot of people might realize that, and maybe you, that you're trying really hard to target enterprise businesses, but find out that the majority of your site traffic is actually coming from small businesses. What you can do is to review and decide if you should be running more reach campaigns to drive more traffic from the enterprise businesses, or maybe you should start thinking maybe you could do more to reach out to the SMB crowd, since these are people who are already interested in your brand. Now let's talk about how targeting on LinkedIn works. When you fill out your LinkedIn profile, you're essentially trusting us with your first-party data on LinkedIn. And based on that LinkedIn profile, we're able to identify what your attributes are. For example, the company you work for, so we get your company name, we get company connections, the company followers, and etc. Outside of that first part, we also have the ability to use derived data, which on this particular slide, it's highlighted in light green. So things like job function, job seniority, member age, member gender, and years of experience. For example, and how you can use, let's say, for example, job function, job seniority, or should you use job title? Job titles are pretty straightforward. If you wanted to target marketing managers, all you have to do is type job title, marketing managers. But this might not be the most efficient way to do it because there are so many permutations out there. That could be senior marketing manager, that could be a digital marketing manager, that could be head of digital marketing or head of advertising. The list is endless. What you can do is if you're pairing job function with job seniority, you could efficiently target the right type of seniority of people, of marketing professionals. And while marketing manager seems pretty straightforward and you might laboriously still want to type those job titles in, think about other job titles that you might not be able to capture. For example, social media ninja, social media advocate, maybe even chief of entertainment. To highlight someone who's working with maybe talent. It's so hard to capture efficiently. So we do give you the options in case you're interested to use either job title, which is first-party data, or you could use derived data, which is job function and job seniority. If you're just getting started with advertising, we recommend testing out the colored facets first, the one in dark green. So this would be, I would say, the new starter pack for you if you're very new to targeting on LinkedIn. Now, first of all, you're almost guaranteed to see poor campaign performance if you use just one campaign to target professionals in different countries, from different industries, and unrelated functions, all with drastically different mindsets and content needs. Don't lump all your buyer personas into one campaign. If your target audience are all lumped together, you'll have trouble personalizing your content for each stakeholder group. You also run the risk of maybe having most of the delivery going towards one particular target audience, which may be getting lower CPMs. What you should do is instead make sure that your buyer personas are clear and well-defined. Break out key personas into separate campaigns and group together the criteria that make sense, including related industries, geographies, or job functions. This will help you to deliver the right messaging to a subset of LinkedIn members. Similarly, don't use the same content and targeting tactics regardless of the product. Don't send a CXO level message to a senior individual contributor and vice versa. what you should do is to tailor your content to your target audience. Next, don't hyper-target your campaigns. I know, it's very tempting, especially now that you've learned about 20 of the many different LinkedIn targeting facets. So you want to use every targeting feature possible. However, limited scale will hurt your campaigns. So start broad for your first campaigns to see who's responding best to your offer and then narrow it down. We also recommend launching campaigns with about about 4+ targeting facets. So if you're just getting started, the recommended starters would be, as I mentioned before, company size, industry, title, seniority, job function, skills, and matched audiences. And you can find that these facets will give you greater scale, while age, gender, and profile location can make it tough to get scale in your campaigns. Also, things to take note, like I mentioned earlier, age and gender are typically inferred from your profile. Finally, finding your targeting sweet spot requires an experimental mindset. So once you've set a campaign live and you begin to see results, optimize your targeting to ensure you're reaching the audiences most effectively. What you can do here is that you can try testing 2 similar campaigns with 1 variation for your targeting criteria and see which combination is more effective. To perform an A/B test on your targeting, create a campaign, duplicate it, and then slightly alter your targeting parameters. What you should do is that you should only change a few criteria at a time to isolate what part of your test impacted your campaign's performance. Try testing skills versus job titles, industry versus function, and etc. Keep refining over time, and you'll find that the audience that responds best to your content. Audience templates. This is a not-so-recent advertising feature on Campaign Manager tool, but extremely helpful. And in case you haven't noticed it, here's my public service announcement in announcing a really nifty tool. So the speed at which you as an advertiser can create a campaign is a great metric for realizing value from us. So what we've done is introducing audience templates. And we've developed over 20 predefined audiences based on the most popular segments made by LinkedIn advertisers, your peers basically. So these templates can help new advertisers get started faster and actually get you more reach than if you were to go about trying to define that audience on your own. So the LinkedIn recommended audience templates will contain combinations of targeting facets that will help advertisers to firstly define audiences faster by reducing or altogether removing manual targeting setup. Secondly, leveraging best practice audience templates that we've put together. You can also reduce friction caused by unintentional hyper-targeting. And lastly, you can even discover new targeting facets that you would not have otherwise considered. Now, we will move on to talking about reporting and analytics. Now, this is your window into all of how your campaign is doing. Now, most of you will be spending most of your time here monitoring and tweaking your campaign performance. Think of this as your mission control, where you see the spend, performance, results all in one place. It's basically your one-stop shop for all things LinkedIn ads, and this is what we'll dive in a little bit more. So now that we're going to talk about 3 different tips for measurement and optimization. We'll talk about leveraging the LinkedIn Insights tag, setting up conversion tracking, and leveraging the LinkedIn lead gen forms. Okay, let's talk about the Insights tag. What is the LinkedIn Insights tag? So for those of you who are not familiar, the LinkedIn Insights tag is a lightweight piece of code that you paste on the global footer of your website. And what you should do is that before trying to generate this code and pasting it on your website, if you're part of a global brand, chances are your global brand or your counterparts in the US would have already implemented this LinkedIn Insight tag. So do reach out to us to find out that if you do need to put this in. If not, you'll basically be duplicating the effort and slowing down the website. Now, these are the different ways of how you use the LinkedIn Insight tag. It gives you access to things like conversion tracking, retargeting, and website demographics. You absolutely need to have the Insights tag to leverage all 3 of these different tools. I would say if you're very lucky and you're not being restricted in any way at all, do use the LinkedIn Insights tag because you're able to access these amazing things. It really is an important component of being able to access more advanced reporting and analytics, and you can use that data to further power your campaign. The first thing is that you can understand the website demographics option to get a better understanding of your audience, which I alluded to a little earlier as well. You can find out who is visiting your website and who you should be targeting more in your paid campaigns. Secondly, you can leverage targeting to reach people that have already engaged on your website, engaged on your content, but maybe have not yet converted or moved further down the sales funnel. And last but not least, it's a great way to measure and optimize your campaigns by using conversion tracking. So conversion tracking helps you to measure who is taking action on your website, be it a purchase or signing up to use a demo of your product, which we'll talk a bit more in the next slide. Now, why should you use conversion tracking? 1, campaigns perform better because you're able to see more complete metrics to see total performance. Secondly, you get to unlock advanced features for stronger ROI. Features like auto optimization for conversions. You can get access to the retargeting and website demographics. So what you can do is that you can also, instead of just using conversion tracking to track conversions, you can also exclude this conversion so that you get to maximize your advertising dollars instead of duplicating it and retargeting people who have already converted on your website. Last but not least, you can also get deeper insights to optimize your campaigns. And how we count conversion clicks is actually based on a tag fire, which is more accurate. And other tools counts may be lower from page loads, and this could either be impacted by bounce rates, slow loading time, or very bad connections or errors, especially when you're on mobile with very patchy Wi-Fi. Now, these are the 2 different ways to track conversions on the LinkedIn platform. Firstly, if you're driving members to your thank you or confirmation page, all you need is an insight tag, which you only have to install once. You also need to define that conversion by defining which URL to track. So for example, if I'm tracking downloads of Pusheen's pictures on my imaginary website, and it redirects people to www.pusheen.com/thank you, I would use that URL to define what to count as a conversion. The other great thing about this type of tracking is that if you use unique URLs, you don't necessarily have to track the exact URL because it's going to be so cumbersome because it's not the same every time. What you can do to speed this up is that you can define the conversion by, for example, stating what it starts with, or the URL contains a certain text, or maybe the URL contains a string of numbers. So you can create those different rules, and then you let the system know what you want to count as an action. Number 2 is really how you, the other different type of conversion is an action that takes place on your website, but does not necessarily redirect you to a thank you page. So for example, you are driving to a PDF download. And what you will use then is an event-specific image pixel. And what it is a small snippet of code that you or your web team will place on a specific button. So whether it's a submit button, but basically that button will not redirect to another thank you page. So it will count the number of clicks to that particular button or event that you're tracking to make sure that all of these actions are being tracked. Tracking the right metrics is crucial to show your success. Rather than track pure cost per lead, you can use your campaign data to show how many qualified leads and new customers you are acquiring as a result of your LinkedIn ad spend. When marketers like yourself measure down the funnel and look at these metrics that most closely align with your goals and your sales team's goals, you'll find that LinkedIn often outperforms other ad platforms when it comes to cost and quality. So we discussed 2 features today, lead gen forms and conversion tracking. Now, when should you use a conversion tracking and a lead gen form? When you want to get conversions on websites, or say has a form on the website, use conversion tracking. But if you want to build a database directly from LinkedIn platform, use our lead gen form feature. Or you can, apart from the products we discussed today, you can also test ads, dynamic ads, conversion tracking, supports all of these formats. Whereas lead gen form only supports sponsored content and email. Conversion tracking does require an insight tag, whereas lead gen form doesn't. And last, conversion tracking supports demographic reporting, whereas lead gen form doesn't. So basically, based on the requirements and nature of the campaign objective, use either of the two. Now, this is a high-level view of what you can see with campaign demographics. With campaign demographics, you can break down by specific audiences on the right. For example, you can look at job functions to understand what audiences are converting and engaging with your campaigns. Now, if you look at this screenshot, you can see that business development audience is converting but not engaging. And what this would do is to allow us to consider testing the business development audiences to see if we can reach more so that we can get more conversions. Now, how do you use web's campaign demographics? Now, one scenario that I like to share is that if you see a particular audience that is taking up a lot of the clicks, therefore budget, but they're not converting, then you might want to consider either removing them from the targeting or push more budget towards those that are converting. And a common example of this is if let's say you're targeting HR and recruiters are clicking a lot but not converting, you might switch to include just HR and then exclude recruiters. Another way would be to show the quality of the conversions you're driving so that you could see what job titles are most likely to convert, etc. And that brings us to the end of this campaign tips or hacks to help you save your time. Our team will be online for 15 minutes to take questions. Please enter them in the portal and we will answer them as soon as we can.